Welcome to The Conspiracy Show. My name is Richard Serrett. Is there a secretive power elite conspiring to rule the world through authoritarian one-world government? A world government which would replace sovereign nation-states, suspend constitutions, institute a common currency, even one-world religion, essentially enslaving humankind. If in fact we are moving towards one-world government and a new world order, who is this unduly influential cabal, and how do they aim to achieve their goals? My friends, it is time to rudely engage reality.
Genetic enigma or a human alien hybrid.
There was at least
That's
two
how
gunmen,
cynical I
one
am
was
now about the
firing from the
process.
nose.
Is it possible technology can alter weather patterns
Created by the
corporation
of the strain, not
has been engineered by the Illuminati?
There's no doubt.
I'm here in Carlsbad, California, north of San Diego, to speak with veteran investigative journalist John Rappaport of NoMoreFakeNews.com fame. If there's anyone who can help me find the answers, it's him.
When you hear the term one world government, what goes through your mind?
Well, from research that I've actually done, what goes through my mind is a gigantic bureaucracy sitting on top of the planet, running the daily affairs of people all over the world, presumably to help them, to save them, to supply their needs, all couched in very humane kinds of language. See, not like high-stepping boots and weapons and armies patrolling everywhere. But this is the natural outgrowth of what civilization has become. If you live in India and you live in Argentina and I live in America, our lives are interdependent. And there's nothing we can do about it. This is the reality. And so in order to eliminate trouble, problems, conflicts, we have to have a government that oversees all of your lives to make them better. That's the tone, shall we say. That's what we get. It's a wonderful thing.
Okay. You're not buying that.
No, I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it because what happens to freedom?
What will one world government look like?
It will look like hell, basically. This is the corporate takeover. And the banks, of course, are at the head of this. Every central bank on the globe now, practically all of them, have someone in there from Goldman Sachs. So there's nothing new about this order. And two people agreed on this, Jefferson and Mussolini. Both said you might as well call fascism corporatism because that's what it is. They both agreed on that, and that's what we have now. Governments are colluding, listening to, and being paid by corporations who really have wiped away every law that stopped them from trampling on us.
If your life and my life are actually being dictated to, and the real decisions are not being made at the local level where you live and where I live, we have something horrendous happening, because now we have people saying, we know what's best for you. You may not know it. In fact, we don't know you at all. We will never know you. But because you're a human being, we have certain definitions and principles that tells us what's best for you. And so we're going to run your affairs that way. And within that context, you're free. But if you walk a little too far over here, over there, it's all over for you. You're not free anymore. That's a very daunting prospect.
I'm here with Jim Marrs, researcher and perennial New York Times best-selling author of such books as Ruled by Secrecy and The $1 Trillion Conspiracy. Jim, welcome to The Conspiracy Show.
Thank you, Richard.
On the subject of the New World Order or one world government, Is the term New World Order interchangeable with one world government?
I think in most people's minds the terms are interchangeable, but the term one world government I think is a misnomer. The power brokers that are trying to institute this, they really don't want one world government, because if it was just one world government then they could not play off one country or one economic bloc against the other. I think the game plan may have actually been pretty well laid out by a British Fabian socialist back in 1948 by the name of Eric Arthur Blair, who was very well connected to the British monarchy and to the aristocrats. And he wrote a book where I think he laid it all out. And of course he transposed the numbers 1948, and that was 1984. And of course his pen name was George Orwell. And if you'll go back and reread 1984, you'll find that they had divided the world into three major economic blocks: Oceania, Asiana, East Asiana. And two were always at conflict with each other, and then they would make peace or win or whatever, and then the other would jump in. And I think this is what we're going to look forward to. Now, that was in 1984. Today in the real world, we have the European Union and the soon-to-be North American Union, and then the future Asian Union.
Every day in Europe, the European Union, which is a kind of continental government that runs Europe, is passing new laws and regulations all the time. Every day. This bureaucracy is like a fungus that grows. This is what government does. It wants to grow, just like any organization. It considers its own survival more important than the survival of anything else.
The Asian Union is going to be very easy to create because most of the Asian nations are just pyramid powers. You know, one little group at the top pretty well runs everything. And it'll be easy enough to either buy them up or to put them on the board of directors, and then you've got that under control. The biggest stumbling block they have today is the United States of America, and that's because we have a tradition of individual liberty and freedom, and so I think that they're getting fairly close to achieving their goal.
Carl Mamer is host of the Conspiracy Skeptic podcast. Carl, welcome to the Conspiracy Show.
Oh, thanks for having me, Richard.
Let's talk one world government or New World Order, if you wish. A number of historical figures, including British Prime Minister Winston Churchill, President Woodrow Wilson, even President George Herbert Walker Bush, all used the term New World Order. What do you think they meant by that?
Well, I think definitions definitely change over time. Some people today think, one world government or New World Order means some sort of totalitarian regime. But I think back in the time of Winston Churchill and Woodrow Wilson, that they were just basically meaning nations coming together and sort of solving world problems and sort of being able to lay aside their own sort of national interest. I mean, they definitely weren't sort of talking about sort of nations subtending their sovereignty to some government body.
So would you argue that one world government has a lot of potential upside?
Oh, I think so, for sure. But we're not talking about a government, a one world government that where nation states no longer are nation states. We're talking about lowering of barriers to sort of the free movement of capital and people.
Global currency is now interconnected fully. That's the first major step to one world government. That's what happened in Europe.
I think that the international bankers already had a plan for what we came to know as the Cold War. They're going to create a socialist East and they're going to have a capitalist West. So they created Hitler to act as a block against the spread of communism. But once again, they realized they'd created a Frankenstein monster because he did not borrow interest-bearing money from the international bankers. He just created his own money through the German Central Bank and then put everybody to work building the Autobahn and buildings and public works. And within 2 years, Germany was prospering. By the Olympics of 1936, Germany was a glowing example to the whole world.
Well, for sure, but it would also be in the benefit, I think, of the average person. When you lower the barriers to the free movement of trade and people, I think we all benefit. bringing efficiency to the world economy, getting the world on sort of similar standards, just basically, just a good way to sort of increase prosperity in the world.
The people behind this movement towards world governance, the World Federalist Movement and others, are they well-intentioned, or do you see something more nefarious at the core of this globalist agenda?
Most of the people are well-intentioned. Let's do something good for all of humanity. Obviously, we need a government that is kind, gentle, giving. Let's satisfy the needs of everybody on the planet. The inner core is definitely nefarious. There is no maybe, we don't know, They are nefarious. They want control. They want control over the population because that's what they live for. That's the kind of people they are.
Definitely different people have very similar fears, losing control of their ability to sort of, determine their own destiny in an increasingly globalized world. So they tend to sort of externalize those fears sort of based on their own sort of worldview. So Christians would see political events as sort of fulfilling biblical prophecy. People who believe in UFOs would sort of see world events as being not controlled by elected officials, but being controlled by space aliens.
There are 8 banking families that own the Class A shares.
Families that have existed for a very long time, elite families, who have enormous widespread fortunes.
The IMF comes out of that, the BIS comes out of that, the World Bank.
They look at the growth of freedom, especially individual freedom, as a gigantic roadblock to their interests.
That's the old and the new world order. As I said, it's been around 300 years at least.
Give me some examples of events that were being orchestrated behind the scenes to further one world government.
World War I, World War II. War is great for these elites. Why? Because it decimates nations, it bankrupts nations. You had elite players in America who were bankrolling both sides in World War II, Germany and America, hoping to create as big an explosion, so to speak, as possible, so that at the end of it, Europe would be in ruins, the United States would be weakened because of all the incredible amounts of money and resources spent on the war. And you can say to the public, do you see what just happened here? One nation, conflict with another nation. And then you had the rise of a very powerful movement under a variety of names. I call it internationalism in 1945. We have to solve these problems collectively. Well, we had the creation of the United Nations in 1945. Well, the blueprint for the United Nations was written by members of the CFR in New York, Council on Foreign Relations. They were given the job by the executive branch of the federal government, the United States federal government, key players in the White House, to draft a charter for a United Nations that was going to come upon the end of World War II. And the goal of the United Nations was going to be, let's all pull together as nations and let's eventually have a governing authority over the entire planet. Well, what's the CFR? The CFR was started by Rockefeller in 1920 in New York City, the Council on Foreign Relations. Just a bunch of guys having coffee and brandy and cigars and sitting around talking about problems. No, it wasn't. In the core of that group, you had major elite players that were looking at World War II as, this is our opportunity to convince the world that if we continue to have separate, individual, distinct nations, we will have war and oblivion on the planet. And the only solution to that is to build a one-world government.
I want to get your response to this quote that's attributed to Henry Kissinger from a Bilderberg meeting in Evian, France back in 1991. Henry Kissinger. Today, America would be outraged if UN troops entered Los Angeles to restore order, referring to the 1991 LA riot. Tomorrow, they will be grateful. This is especially true if they were told there was an outside threat from beyond. For an example, an extraterrestrial invasion. Whether real or promulgated, that threatened our very existence. It is then that all peoples of the world will plead to deliver them from this evil. The one thing every man fears is the unknown. When presented with this scenario, individual rights will be willingly relinquished for the guarantee of their well-being granted to them by the world government. What are your thoughts on that statement by Kissinger?
Well, first I'd question that he even said it. The Bilderbergs, their meetings are notoriously off the record. Very little information ever gets out of their meetings. Once in a while something does. If you go to WikiLeaks and search on Bilderbergers, you will find notes from maybe about 3 or 4 of their meetings. And there's nothing controversial in those minutes. Again, a lot of times conspiracy theorists, they quote mine. They sort of pick out little quotes here and there and pull it out of context. Was Kissinger really suggesting this, or was it, like a rhetorical device? Was he saying this is what some people think, and then in the paragraph we're not shown, he then demolishes that position? We don't know. We're just given this one paragraph with really no evidence where it came from.
If we're looking at a clock and one world government arrives at midnight, how close are we to midnight?
11 o'clock. In some respects, we already have global government, as I've indicated. It's not like, we're going to start from scratch. But we're at 11 o'clock. It's not early, it's late in the game, but there's still time.
I'd have to say that they're at the 11th hour. They're pretty close. I think we can see that they're trying to get control economically of the whole world. But there is a bright spot in that the tighter that they try to gain control, the more aware people become. And there are more of us than there are of them. And we're getting smarter all the time, and thanks primarily to the internet, people all around the world are beginning to realize, they're rising up and they're saying, we're tired of this, we want something else.
It's pretty hard to argue that the world is not moving towards greater and greater interdependence. The forces of globalization seem unavoidable, but is globalization a conspiracy or a process? We heard from some researchers who presented some pretty compelling evidence to suggest that certain sinister forces are conspiring to impose their vision of a new world order on humankind.
When everybody talks about we have to have a one world order or we have to be global, don't you always ask yourself, but who's going to be running it? It doesn't matter if it's global. Globalization of what? Apparently, to me, it seems like a globalization of poverty. And less people have more and more control and more of the natural resources belonging to everybody.
They want to control the land, the resources, the labor. They want to control the agriculture, the money, the media, the energy. And who better to do that than us? We know what's needed at any given moment, anywhere on the planet.
We've seen the rise of such individuals before. The emperors of Persia, ancient Greece, Rome, Adolf Hitler. So why do we assume it's not happening now? That very wealthy, powerful families or individuals are not conspiring to impose their vision of a new world order backstage, in secret, away from the public eye?
Things are heading 180 in the wrong direction, and they've been heading that way for a long time. Under one world government, the basic notion that you have freedom and I have freedom disappears.
Some researchers see this cabal of elitists as occultists, part of an ancient bloodline, sometimes referred to as the Illuminati. But I prefer to look at them as very powerful, very wealthy, self-interested businessmen who are hell-bent on owning the entire monopoly board, and they'll do whatever it takes to get what they want.
In truth and in fact, we are assets, and our planet is an asset. It's not something to be gouged and dug and scraped and blown up at the whim of people who make things for the sake of making things, and a lot of them are harmful.
And now, we'd like to know what you think. You can contact The Conspiracy Show through our website, www.theconspiracyshow.com. In the meantime, don't be afraid. Move over, Aphrodite. I'm coming home.